the 8th episode of the CEO journey. Today you're joining us for another special guest. He goes by the name of Ty. Ty, thank you very much for hopping on the podcast, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How's it going, G?
Yeah, it's going good. You're obviously doing a lot right now. You're currently at work, which is quite funny. But yeah,
Literally at work. Yeah.
hustling right now. So yeah, no, that's something different, but
Yeah.
definitely a hustler and a entrepreneur. So yeah, it'd be great to get into your story. So if you'd just like to briefly introduce yourself to the viewers, and that would be great.
Cool. So yeah, as Tom said, my name is Ty. I started a clothing brand in 2019, September 17th, 2019. It's called 7th Tier. It's all in my bios. We also have our own podcast for that called the Tier Talks, and I'm going to be starting a new company called the Tier. So basically, to boil it down, my clothing company, going to be making a bit of a pivot, but essentially for 7th Tier, we did an event last year in August, went really, really well. I just basically realized that I actually like doing events more than actually doing a clothing brand. So basically, to keep it short and sweet, I'll be changing my clothing brand 7th Tier for them to a merch company for the Tier. So basically, like, you've got like Sidemen, they've obviously got Sidemen Clothing. Sidemen is like the main business, and then they've got their merch, which is called Sidemen Clothing. So that's what I'm basically going to be doing, starting my event company called the Tier next year, and then my clothing brand is going to be changing to merch for the events company, basically.
No, that's really interesting, mate. How old are you, by the way? Just so the viewers know.
20.
20, so you're young then. You're a young hustler.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But no, yeah, it sounds like you've
How
got...
old are you, bro? How old are you?
I'm 19, mate. Joe and I are both 19.
Hustler as well. Hustler as well, man.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just inspiring to see that, you know, you've got all these different ventures and you're at such a young age. So yeah, just keep it up, mate. But as you probably know, I like to basically understand a bit of the, you know, earlier stages of the entrepreneur I'm speaking to. So I guess my first question to you, Ty, would be, you know, who was young Ty? Like, what was your upbringing like, and how have you got to the point you're at now?
Okay, cool. So young Ty was always creating stuff. So I was always like creating content. So you know, I've got my own YouTube channel called the Life of Ty, which is basically what I do for fun. That's where I was really gassed when we got Jake on, because like Jake, he's a cool creator, and he actually is a bit of an inspiration for me. And I actually want to work with him soon. But yeah, young Ty was basically always trying to create stuff. The earliest things it goes back to is originally I'm from Camden, but I moved out to Essex about 10 years ago. I was really into Marvel, so I was like really into like looking at their suits, like looking at like Spider-Man suit, and like, wow, like that looks so cool. So I just basically in my free time, like, just design my own superhero suits. I'd always like be drawing and stuff, and like just making my own concepts and stuff. And that was something that really got me interested in like just design, essentially. But that was when I was maybe like 9 or 10, and grew up in quite like a traditional family. So my parents are very religious. So I grew up in a quite traditional family, but with tradition, it also brings in the qualities, and hard work was big. So my parents are originally from Nigeria. They moved into the UK when they got married, and they had me and my sister. And that was something that I always saw. Like, hard work was a thing that was always number one in my life. Always saw my dad working hard, my mum working hard. So anyway, as I got older, when I sort of moved out of London, I was 10, and obviously, you know, I grew up here. So skipping forward to like 16, I got into working world, as you do. You know, you want to get a bit of pocket money. I think my first job was a paper route, which I actually didn't get paid for. So shout out to the guy if he's watching this now. Didn't pay me to, but it wasn't a lot anyway. It wasn't probably good. I think I like missed houses and stuff. I was pretty bad at it. But anyway, so I got my first job, and I just realized I do not want to work for people. I don't want to work for anyone at 16. So I started a YouTube channel just for fun. And I think I did that when I was maybe 14, I think. So I started a YouTube channel. I always like working with people as well. So I started my own YouTube channel called Thai Videos. In that sort of day and age, I don't know if you remember, bro, but it was like a lot of like challenges going around. So it's like 2015, 2016, like I had the Chubby Bully Challenge, Ice Bucket Challenge. I was doing all of them. I think I did a video where my sister did makeup on me. So I always like creating content. And I always like working with people. So anyway, fast forward then. I basically started my YouTube channel, did it for fun, stopped doing that. And I went on holiday, went actually back to Nigeria. And this was when I was maybe 17, I think. And I basically just thought, right, like I'm going to be going into college. When I come back to UK, I've realized I don't actually like working for people. This is my time because I'm on holiday to start like getting some ideas for a clothing brand. So I just started like designing logos and stuff. And I just started like coming up with ideas like business plan and just watching YouTube videos, man. Because obviously, like we know we're pretty young now. If we want to learn anything, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, you'd have to read a book. All you got to do, bro, is go on YouTube and type in how to start a business.
Completely agree. Yeah, we've got infinite resources at our hands.
Exactly. So that's what I did basically. I just typed in how to start a clothing brand, watched loads of videos, and I thought when I come back to UK, I'm gonna start my clothing brand. So basically, that's what I did. Came up to UK, maybe a couple months, waited, and it was actually when I first started college. So I first started. Actually, it was my second year of college class. Did art and design, didn't like that, so I moved on to a business course. So I think it was literally the first week of doing that business course. Started my clothing brand called Seventh Tier, and yeah, I did that for I'm currently sort of doing it. I'm doing it for 3 years now, and yeah, basically, I just always like working with people, and I always like creating stuff. And I basically realized that my goal, like in life, is to be the most impactful person to young creators, and that's what I want to do. So that's what my clothing brand's all about. Seventh Tier is all about clothing creators. We do designs based on basically creatives, issues that creative goes through, all of designs that are inspired about the daily struggles of creators, and that's what our podcast is about. We get creatives on and stuff.
So when you mean creative, do you mean people physically creating content, or is it just general
anyone in the creative industry? So like content creation, musicians, artists, actors, anything in the creative industry. That's what the brands cater to, basically.
No, okay, so that makes sense then. Yeah. Well, that's definitely great to hear your story, and it's like such an insightful and in some way turbulent path, and I guess you're testament to taking action, aren't you? And someone who's got a drive and they're willing to put everything into it, and that's what you're doing right now. So that's great to see. But to bring it back, you noticed at a young age that you liked creating and building things. And did you find that you were different to like your peers at school, and how did you deal with that difference?
Yeah, so I found that I was different from my peers because I'd always actually sort of do things. So say for example, bro, if you said, like let's do like I don't know, like a funny skit video, it'll be funny. Like I'd actually go out and do it. I'd actually go out and actually do it. And I just like creating stuff. So like with my YouTube channel, I always like just creating content about my life. I think that's what differentiated me from my peers, is that like if I was doing something that I thought was interesting, or I thought other people would find interesting, I document it. Because like even now, like I journal. Like I'm big on documentation, whereas most people just go through life, drift through life, and sort of like all their memorable moments that they remember. I'd automatically think like, okay, let me create content. For example, my own YouTube channel called The Life of Tai, which I just do for fun. I obviously I've been doing like my martial arts for a year. Someone would maybe start martial arts and not document the process, but that's what my YouTube channel is all about. I document my journey through jiu-jitsu and through Muay Thai. And I think to answer your question, bro, that's what made me a bit different from my peers, where they made me go through life and not actually have evidence of what they've done. I've always thought, all right, let me get this on film and let me get this documented. Because number one, it's something that I can look back on when I'm older and be like, wow, I actually did that. And number two, it shows people what my life's like. Number three, it shows a journey, basically. It shows actually like the process of what I'm doing and how I'm actually getting better at something.
So in you creating content, did you have the mentality of I want to make a business out of this, or was it purely just passion play?
Yeah, so at first it was like, I want to make a business out of this. At first I was like, I want to be a YouTuber. And to be honest with you, I just don't think that I sort of knuckled down and took it seriously, because I'd always start new things and not finish them. And that was something where it wasn't a problem, because once I got my mindset on starting my clothing brand, that was like, this is going to be a business. But my YouTube channel was sort of a thing where I'll do it for fun. If it turns into a business, that would be cool. It wasn't like a proper serious, this is what I'm going to do for fun. Because realistically, if I did take that route, I probably would have just stuck to doing it at 14 and hopefully would have been, quite successful in that industry now, hopefully.
Sorry, how young were you when you started the YouTube channel?
Oh, mate. So I was about 14. So I started
14.
my first YouTube channel when I was 14.
Wow.
And then it was just like, I just basically did different things. I started my own YouTube channel at 14, called Taiye Videos. And I moved on to another channel because I was really into like shoes and stuff at that point. So a channel dedicated to like shoes and fashion. And then I made a group channel. So some of my friends, we all made our own channel. But that didn't work out. And then, yeah, that was basically sort of the end of like my YouTube career, until I obviously got back on to my podcast, my clothing brand, and then for my own YouTube channel sort of thing.
Oh no, that's incredible. And so you started creating content at 14 years old, and
Yeah,
obviously you know about Jake, and he's been on the podcast, and
yeah.
I asked him a similar question, but I'm also going to ask you it because I just find it really interesting. And that's like, how would other people around you perceive you creating the content, and did it negatively impact you and negatively impact your vision with it, even though it wasn't a business play?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think. Was I 14? I think I was 14 or 16. So I can't remember. I think I was 16. I was young. Let's just say 16 just to play it safe, I think. Nah, man. I think when I first started my personal YouTube channel, I was a bit sort of maybe embarrassed that old people, in secondary school would see my YouTube channel, and they did. But the way I sort of countered that is I got them involved. So I actually got them involved, and that was something where it basically changed the perception of how people saw my YouTube channel. Because instead of it being like, Ty's doing, these silly little videos, it's like, shout me out in your next video, or I want to be in your video. So that's the way I sort of counter it. And also a big thing, my friend, is like, just don't give a monkey, bro. Don't give a monkey. Like, if people like, I remember when I was in college, and this is when I stopped doing YouTube, I was just focusing on my clothing brand. Like, I remember some of my friends found my YouTube channel, and I think I told them about it, and they just started watching my YouTube video in front of me, and that was like, they didn't do it to make fun of me, but normally people would like be a bit embarrassed and stuff, but I was cool with it, man, because I feel like I think ammunition to people when it comes to insults is how personal you take it and how it affects you. But if you just, even if you do feel like, okay, you do care, but if you act as if you don't care, which I generally didn't care, they realize, okay, like, he actually doesn't give a damn. And then they begin to support, actually. They actually begin to support you, and they actually be like, oh, bro, like, your channel's good, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And yeah, man.
No, I completely agree with that, because, as young entrepreneurs, everyone's so quick to judge you. And say, oh, you can't do this because of your age and stuff like that. And I just think the best thing to do is to just not give a monkey. So how important would you say to anyone out there looking to create something out of the norm, or something entrepreneurial, how important is it to not give a crap about what other people perceive it as?
It's extremely important. Like, you have to put your cards all on the table, my friend. Like, you have to be able to do that, especially with entrepreneurship, which we'll get into. But like, you're gonna fail. like my clothing brand. That's why I'm making a pivot to it being a merch company, because it wasn't going the way I wanted to, and it wasn't. You know, after 3 years, there's a lot of good work I've done, but I look back and I'm like, flip, like at a business level, we're not making that. You know, we're not making any money. Like it's a thing where I thought, flip, like you got to make a pivot, and if you care about what people think, you won't have the chance to make a pivot because number one, you could be like, oh, this is what people know me as.
Mm.
That's what I thought at the beginning. Like, oh, when I was sort of thinking about starting a new business event, I thought, flip, man, people know me as a clothing brand. Why am I going to change that? Why am I going to change my public perception of people? But you know, that's why you have to be able to not care about people's opinions, because if you do, for example, in my stance, and say, okay, I care about being known as this thing, your business may fail. Because say if you're doing like, I don't know, you're doing crypto or something, and it starts to fail, and you think, flip, man, I'm good at content creation. I see a gap in the market, and you go for that. But you think, oh, what are people going to think of me? People know me as a crypto guy. If you keep on doing crypto, you're not going to get to your goals because it's going to fail. So you got to be able to just have some blinders on and just focus on, okay, this is what I want to do, and then just focus on, doing what you want. Because at the end of the day, bro, like you're living your life. They're not living your life for you.
No.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
agreed, mate. Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
What's the vision for the content in the future then?
Oh man, so the vision for the content. So my own YouTube channel is just for fun. My own YouTube channel is just for fun. The Life of Ty. I upload in there maybe once a week, but I definitely I want to have a good personal brand. I'd like to have a personal brand. That's why I started my own YouTube channel, because I want people to actually watch because of me. For example, like your boy Jake, he obviously, I listened to his podcast and he said he obviously gives value to people in a sense where he did his video on how to do great in your A levels and that sort of stuff. And that's why I want people to watch me. I want people to watch me if they start jiu-jitsu, to gain value and see what it's actually like as a beginner, but also because, they maybe relate to me in somehow. And in terms of my business, my goal with events is to showcase young creatives, in all industries, get them doing their own events. Because I feel like a lot of creatives nowadays, even like yourself, they're not put to the spotlight because they may be seen as not having a real job or something like that. And that's what I want my events company to do, and that's what I want the merch to be a physical representation of. If you wear the merch, you're a creative and you're wanting to, do your own thing. Got to escape the matrix, man. A lot of people live in the matrix of, like doing a 9-to-5 job. And even with this security gig now, I've got time span. In 2 years, I don't want to be doing this. I want to be running my business full time, and it's hard because I've got to put in the work. But I feel like in an ideal world, everyone will be running their own business and everyone will be able to, help each other out. But I mean, it's hard. Life ain't perfect,
No,
so,
it's not. It's not a straight path whatsoever.
yeah.
And you've touched on basically personal branding, and I obviously value that, and that's partly the reason why I've started the podcast, is to try and build also a personal brand to help me with my ventures, and also build up other people's personal brands like yourself. How important do you think it is nowadays to have that strong personal brand for whatever you do?
Mate, having a personal brand is so important, my friend. Like, brother, having a personal brand is so important. Like, I just thought about something. Yeah, I just thought about something. But personal brands have always been showcased in life. They've always been showcased in life and in time. Jesus Christ is probably the most famous person in existence. Why is that? Because he's got a good personal brand. Because
So true,
I don't even know how many Christians there are. They're called Christians. Jesus, they literally named after him. Like, personal brands have been a thing where they've been around for millennia. And personal brands are even more important now because Jesus Christ can't make money flipping, sitting in his sandals at home. Whereas you can make money flipping, having a sick personal brand, because people like Tom's podcast, people like CEO Journey, and you get that ad revenue every month, and that gives you enough money to pay your bills. I think having a personal brand is incredibly important for people that want to make content creation, because at the end of the day, man, like, people want to watch you because they like you. People want to
Yeah,
watch you because they like you. People want to watch you because they gain something from you, whether that's information in the sense that you're an informative channel telling people
yeah,
how to do things. You're an entertainment channel in the sense that maybe you're a reaction channel, you're just funny, like your reactions are funny, or like, you know, self-improvement channel, you're inspirational, but people want to watch you for you. And that's why I feel like having a personal brand is so important, because as soon as you have a target audience of people who will just watch your content and who will support you, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll
mm,
always do well. Because say, for example, if my boy Jake, for example, started like, I don't know, like a company on tutoring, he will
yeah.
do exceptionally well because people know, oh shit, this guy has got a personal brand. I'm doing well on
That's
GCSEs.
so true.
Oh, you know, I'll pay 100 quid. I'll pay 100 quid for his course because he's got that personal brand. Whereas if no one knew about Jake and you see him, oh yeah, this is my new course. You're not buying that course because you don't know what he's about. You don't even
Mm.
like him. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's important. You know?
Completely agree, mate. Yeah, I think it's so important nowadays, and it just opens up so many doors for um, the individual who's trying to build that personal brand. And how has that impacted? I mean, did that have a positive impact on your clothing brand when you started that, having the content out there and having that subscriber base, to call it? Did that help you with monetizing your clothing brand and getting the revenue from that?
Yeah, it did, man. It did. So I think it helped because it was just more transparent, bro. It was just
Mm,
more transparent. And you know, my sub count for my clothing brand's YouTube channel, seventh tier, very low. We're at like, I don't even think 70 subscribers. We're at like 63 subscribers, which is I'm trying to build these things up. But it did help with the business because people saw what it was like behind the scenes, and most importantly, people gained value from it. Like my podcast, for example, which I need to find a new cameraman. That's why we've been a bit slow on uploading videos every month. But people like being entertained, and my podcast, shout out my boy Joey, went on a new series with him.
yeah,
It was entertaining. People liked it, and even just doing that, people feel like people want to be part of a lifestyle. People want to be part of a tribe, and when they can feel, damn, I relate to this, or this is funny, they will automatically support what you're doing because they're gaining value from it. That's what business is all about. And
yeah.
I haven't got it figured out yet because you know I'm still working security. Obviously, but like you know I'm getting there, and having something which people can gain value from makes it a lot easier for them to buy something from you because I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You've given me something, so I'll give you a bit of my money, basically.
And are you a big proponent of enjoying the journey? And because obviously, you know, you're young, you're working in security currently, you're building all these things up. I don't know if anything's really taken off yet, but that's the vision for the future, isn't it? So are you sort of like, let's enjoy the journey no matter where it takes us, we'll learn things from it, and we'll be able to take that learning and deploy it into new ventures.
Yeah, enjoying the journey is the most important thing. Enjoying the journey is the most important thing, and especially now where you know some things have shown potential to take off, but they haven't. You know, my clothing brand has had moments where you know it's done really well, but it's still not at the level where it's properly taken off. And I don't think even when it has, you know, in my eyes, it won't ever be to that point where it's probably taken off. Because even if it gets to you know, my events gets to a point where I'm, you know, doing like Creamfields events or like V
Mm,
Festival, and I'm earning good money. You could always go to the next level, but that's why you got to enjoy the process because if you're doing it just for the money, you might as well not start because it's going to take years to get to that point. Like, you know, it takes the average. I think I researched the other day. The average millionaire becomes one at 45. It's a
yeah,
long time. That's
yeah.
25 years for me. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm,
That's a long time, and you know, you can't be in it for the money because number
mm,
one, you're going to fail a lot. So, you
mm.
know, you have to, if you're wanting to do it for the money, by the time you fail once, you're not going to do it again because you haven't made any money. Number two, it takes ages to get that
Yeah,
money. Like, it takes years. So it's like, if you're doing it for the money again, you might as well quit because it's going to take years to get to that point. And number three, you want to enjoy it. Like, why not enjoy it? Why not actually enjoy it? Like, why not think, okay, you know, I maybe not made no money or I made a bit of money, not a lot, but you know, I've enjoyed myself. You got to enjoy it, man.
yeah.
Or else, you know, you're just living a life. You know, flipping. What's that saying? You know, that man, I forgot the saying. I can't even remember it. But yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, I fully agree. And like tying it back to what you said, I feel like it gives you a purpose to like wake up every day and show up. I don't know if you agree with that. And I think that's so important in just the overall aspect of enjoying the journey and enjoying the track that you're on. So yeah, do you have any points to add to that, Ty? Anything about having that purpose and being able to show up every day and hustle?
Not really. I think another thing that people need to realize, because you know, this is something that I struggle with, is you got to enjoy the journey, and with that being said, you got to be kind to yourself. Like in this day and age now, like with entrepreneurship, like it looks fancy. How you go on YouTube, you look at your what's recommended. How I make 20K in a month, like that's extremely unrealistic, and you've got to take it easy. You got to be kind to yourself. So we're very young now, and we may think, oh, why hasn't this worked out? Like there was a point where I started, where I was doing my clothing brand a couple of months ago, and I was like, damn, why hasn't this worked out? But you're young and you've got time, and you've also got to realize that you're gonna fail a lot, and you have to realize that you can't expect too much of yourself, because we're only humans, and we're gonna make mistakes. We are just gonna make mistakes. So I think big thing is just be kind to yourself, and try not to compare yourself to others, because you never know what other people are going through behind closed doors.
Yeah, 100% agree. So to tie it back to your clothing brand, because we've talked about that quite a bit. So it's called Seven Tier, obviously, isn't that's a brand name? What does that embody, and why Seventh Tier?
Cool. So my clothing brand embodies, to put it simply, clothing creative. So like I said, I always saw, because I was always friends with people who are like you, always creating content. Like there were always the people who were outlanders. Either they had like gaming channels, they were maybe into like video games, but they were always they were always documenting stuff, and they were always creating stuff. Like, and then when I moved, when I got out of college, I was with a lot of friends, like artists and stuff, but I basically realized that there was a sort of gap in the market for a brand just dedicated to creatives. So I just thought, let me make a brand dedicated to clothing creators, because I feel like creators seem to go through the same thing. So why not make a brand about that? And basically, why Seventh Tier in terms of the name? Pretty simple. The number 7 is like known as being like a complete number, and then tier is obviously like a platform. So I wanted it to be, when I first started, which is the same, I wanted it to be like a complete tier, complete platform for creatives where they can have their talent showcase, essentially, have their talents put on the spotlight.
Yeah, no, 100%. And obviously you're pivoting with the model right now, and you're venturing off into events, and you've turned it into sort of merch for the podcast, haven't you?
Yeah.
But how's like the brand and the clothing doing today, mate? How's it going? How's the business?
So the business on itself is actually going quite slow, to be honest. The reason being is because with this pivot, I've had to sort of take a step back and sort of reevaluate the game plan. And to do that, I thought it'd be good to sort of go back to the drawing board, in a sense. So, for example, now making a new website for the business for Seventh Tier, and I'm working on a video where I'm basically going to make it short, but tell people what's going on. And the business in itself is going slow, but I'm not upset about that, because I know that with this pivot and with making a change, number one, this is something that I actually realize I'm more suited to. Like I think I'm a big believer in going with the path of least resistance. For example, if you're going to start a business, start one on something you're naturally good at. If you're naturally good at speaking, speaking events. If you're naturally good at, making videos, become an editor, have an editing business. Like I naturally am, quite organized. I like working with people and like showing people a good time. And I enjoyed it a lot more. That one day in August when I did that event, I enjoyed it a lot more than, the whole 3 years of running my clothing brand. And it was very hard for me to do it every single day running my clothing brand, when I thought, flip, like I could be doing events. So to answer your question, business is going slow, but I'm not mad at it, because I feel like sometimes got to go back to basics and sort of replan and figure out, okay, we're going to make a pivot. How are we going to do this? And I think the pivot is going to definitely be a good thing for the business, and I'm looking forward to it, to see how it goes.
Did you have another partner in this venture, or is it just you?
Just me. So the business, in terms of the day-to-day circumstances, is all me. On my podcast, I do it with my co-host, but in terms of the actual business, it's just me, basically.
And do you ever find it more? Would you say, do you envy people who have that co-founder there, who's, you know, you can offload things onto them and you can share the journey with them, or are you just some guy who likes to be, you know, in their own lane without another entity having that control?
Yeah, so I actually don't envy people that have to work with someone or have a co-founder, just because I just like to do things on my own. I've realized, like, working with a lot of people is very hard to manage, especially with my clothing brand, where there was a point where a lot of friends were, you know, doing stuff for me, and it's just very hard to manage, because, you know, you got to keep everyone happy, and also sometimes they're doing work for free, which they don't mind doing, but because they're doing it for free, the quality may not be there because they're doing it for free. So it's like, I actually don't mind doing it all on my own. Don't get me wrong, like with my my guy, my friend Joey, who's my co-host for the Tier Talks, he edits the videos because he's very, very good at editing. Shout out Joey, check out his music. He makes music, he's a musician. But like, in terms of the day-to-day stuff, it's all on me, because, you know, again, like I said, bro, YouTube is there. Like, everything is on YouTube. You can learn anything you need to learn on YouTube. So if I'm ever stuck, I'll go on YouTube and I'll go on YouTube and Google and figure out the answers on my own.
Yeah, and is the advertising, because I'm guessing when you were running the clothing brand, you did you focus a lot on marketing and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Was that all organic, or did you ever use like paid ads, or, you know, what was the marketing strategy behind that?
So the marketing strategy was, at the beginning, it was word of mouth, and then we looked into paid ads, looked onto Instagram ads and like Facebook ads, tried that for a bit. But I actually realized, and this was only like a couple of months ago, that I honestly think the best way to do it now, because at the beginning of the year, we were stocked in a shop in London called JT Skateboards. It did really well. It did really, really well, because we were stocked in 2 shops. One shop in Chelmsford, that did well, and then at the beginning of the year, it's JT Skateboards. So my marketing plan, basically, when I realized it did well in retailers, is literally, bro, I spent a good month, 2 months emailing all the retailers, all the independent retailers in the UK, like all skate retailers. I emailed, and that was sort of my marketing strategy. I didn't go to plan, but I realized that direct to consumer, like, basically getting in front of people and selling them your stuff in person is the best way. Because even the event we did last year, like, we made good money because it was people, for some reason, but online. I don't know about you. If you shop online, you're looking for a t-shirt, you know, number one, you're going to go to big brands like Nike, Adidas, and those sort of things.
Yeah.
And if you do find a small brand, you're going to think, oh, you're maybe going to do research. Where can I find this cheaper? And you may not actually buy the t-shirt. Whereas if it's in front of you, you're in the shop, the price is all right, or it's a bit steep, but you like it, you'll buy it. So, you know, like, that's why I'm going to focus on doing events, because, again, mate, like stalls, I can sell my merch there, and that's going to be my marketing strategy. I will do some organic reach, for example, content on TikTok. TikTok is quite big, and I'll do some paid ads as well on Facebook, but I probably won't invest too much into that, because I honestly think, like, going old school, getting a stall and just selling stuff seems to be the best way for me anyway. That's what I've seen has worked. So yeah.
So you mentioned that you were able to you know, put your products into 2 retailers in London. How did you go about you know, getting those products into retail stores in the shop fronts?
Yeah, so the first shop was actually in Essex, in Chelmsford. But basically, I knew the people, I was good friends with them. And I realized as well, man, about business, you got to build relationships. That's a big thing. You have to be good at building relationships. So with Hotbox, a store in Chelmsford, which I still work with today, I just built a relationship with them, and I asked to get my stuff in the store. and it was a big learning curve, and I did. Shop in London, mate, I just thought, flip, man, because originally I'm from London anyway. I'm just gonna go around, literally just gonna go store by store and show them my stuff and ask if I can put my clothing in there. And that's what I did. I was in Shoreditch, Box Park, found this little shop called JT Skateboards.
That's
Initially, I
so
thought,
admirable. That's so
yeah,
admirable.
yeah, man, I appreciate it. But I just thought like I went in there and it looked like a small shop. So I wasn't too keen on it because my thought was big shop, more money because they get more people in. But I talked to the guy and he said, yeah, we'll give it a go. And yeah, it did really well. Did really well. We sold like 20 or 30 products in the first month, which is quite a lot. For like just being in a store, bear in mind, we're not a big brand. Like we're not a big brand at all. We haven't even got over 1,000 followers on Instagram. But I did that and it did really well. And that was a big eye opening, man, because Tommy was like, bro, imagine you started a brand and your friends are buying it, but then you walk down the street and someone you don't know is wearing your stuff. It's like, wow, that's like flip. That's
Yeah,
like, it was like,
next level stuff,
wow.
isn't it?
Yeah, it was like a proof of concept. It was like, you know, this clothing man can work. That's why when I started the event company, I didn't just get rid of seventh tier because it worked. It worked. The only thing that was holding me back was capital, having to invest in stock constantly, and just like lack of knowledge, just not actually knowing how to run a clothing brand. Because it is a hard business to run. But being stocked in JT Skateboards in February was a big eye opener because it basically showed me that flip. Like people that I don't know, strangers are actually buying my stuff. So I thought that was a big eye opener because I knew that I had something. I knew that like this business could actually work.
Oh, that's amazing, man. To be fair, yeah, love that. Absolutely love that. So has a clothing brand been sort of a financially fruitful business for you, or um, is it just been, ticking along? What's it like?
So I'd say definitely hasn't been a financially fruitful business because yeah, it's been a business where I spent a lot of money and not really got the rewards. But I think in terms of knowledge, it has. It definitely has. And to be honest, in terms of financial, like a lot of businesses, I think it takes a business 3 to 5 years to like actually break even or something. I may be wrong in that, but in terms of knowledge, in terms of it being like a knowledgeably a fruitful thing for my knowledge of business, 100%, man. I've learned so much. I've learned so much about business, and although it hasn't made a lot of money, I've learned a ton about business, and that's something that I can't wait to implement into my events company because that's going to help me. It's going to make life a lot smoother instead of starting from scratch. I actually know, how to go about things now. But to answer the question, definitely not just because, it's been a thing where I've had to spend a lot of money and invest in things because you're testing things, you're testing, ads, you're testing ads, you're testing if this new product's going to work. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you spend, all of this money and it doesn't work. Do you get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. What would you say to someone who wants to start a clothing brand now?
I'd say, number one, there's a YouTube channel called The Power of Success. Watch every single video that he does. Watch every single video. That's what I'd say. Number one, and number two, I'd say, make sure that you have a good brand story because at the end of the day, people buy for 4 reasons when it comes to clothing. They either buy utility wise, your clothing gives them a utility, maybe it's got a special pocket they can use. Status wise, in the sense that your clothing's expensive, like Gucci, it makes you look rich. Emotion wise, it makes you feel a certain type of way. So like your clothing brand is a bit inspirational, so it makes them feel a certain type of way. And aesthetically wise, your designs and how your clothing looks is just nice. So make sure, I'd say the first thing is make sure you know which one you're trying to hit. Are you trying to start a clothing brand which has a special feature that people can use? Are you trying to start a clothing brand which based on status, which makes people look more wealthy than they are. Are you trying to start a clothing brand which looks nice, which is just based on aesthetic, or are you trying to start a clothing brand to pull on the emotional heartstrings of people? My main bit of advice is figure out what category your clothing brand fits into, because once you figure that out, it'll make life a whole lot easier with everything. With everything.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear and so insightful. Is there a big capital investment that you have to make to create a clothing brand, or is it very sort of investment? I don't really know how to put it, but capital less intensive than other businesses.
I'd say it can be. It can be. There's a lot of ways, you know. Like I haven't watched videos on it, but like drop shipping is a thing where like you can do like you can sell like clothing and it gets like drop shipped, so you actually don't have the product. You could do it that way. But if you want to start an actual brand, you're gonna have to obviously invest in stock. So I don't actually think it's that expensive, because most of the time, if you start clothing brand, you're not going to get a lot of stock. It may not sell. The only time it gets pricey is when you have to sort of buy when you're not at bulk. So, for example, when you're not buying hundreds of garments, when you're not buying like uh basically it gets expensive when you're buying small units essentially, because obviously with like manufacturing, the more you buy, the cheaper it is. If you're buying like 20 t-shirts, 20 hoodies, that's still going to be quite pricey because a lot of these manufacturing companies do business with people that buy like hundreds of garments and stuff. So um it can be pricey once you start. When you're in that zone where you're sort of still small, it's definitely quite expensive.
Right. Okay. No, that's great. And would you be looking to sell the clothing brand in the future, or what's your like
Mm.
long-term vision with that?
I probably wouldn't, just because I think like with seventh tier, although it hasn't worked out, and I'm changing it into a merch company for the my events company. I could always go back and maybe when I'm big balling, I've got all my money from the event. Hopefully, I could obviously change it back into a clothing brand. But also, I think the other reason why I wouldn't sell it is just because it means a lot. Because that was my first business venture, I ever started. That was my first sort of proper business that I thought I'm gonna start this on my own.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple of side hustles. They weren't permanent. Whereas this business venture, I thought this is what I'm going to do. And it means a lot to me. And I honestly think it could be turned into something else like I'm doing now with the merch. And I also think it's still got potential. I think like the actual message of the brand is a good, brand story. And it obviously is a brand people like because, people in London that I didn't know were actually buying the stuff. So I probably wouldn't sell it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you've pivoted from that clothing brand into a merch and then now into the events company. What's the crack with the events company then? Where you at with that? Is that just idea
So,
stage at the moment, or?
yeah, so that's beginning the stages. So basically, I'm doing an event next year in Chelmsford, 17th of February 2023, and I'll be doing another event in March. But the events company is just in the planning phases and not in the planning, yeah, in the planning phases because I'm just getting the events booked in. That's basically how I'm doing it. And I'm trying to sort of learn from the mistakes I made with seventh tier. And I'm trying to get funding. I'm trying to get actual like funding because with businesses, obviously, like you can register as a limited company, but I want to register as a community interest company to help the community, and that basically means you can get funding. And I want to get funding so I can do big events because I want to, instead of doing events in like small venues, do my own big like V festival, do a massive event. Obviously, that takes a lot of money, so still in the beginning phases. But within a couple of months, my friend, we'll be ready to go. We'll have the website up, and most importantly, we'll be doing events. Basically, we'll be doing events, hopefully all across the UK in like small venues at first, and I will hopefully do one massive event somewhere in the UK somewhere.
What events are you targeting then?
So the events company is because it's all based direct, it's based on the clothing brand. It's all about showcasing your upcoming creatives. So
Yeah.
the event is going to showcase upcoming artists that aren't as big and won't have the chance to do performances in venues on their own. It's also very important to get these artists paid, because I actually realized, bro, if you're an artist, you do these events because you know you do it for fun. But because you do it for fun, a lot of venues take it for granted and they take advantage because they think, oh, you just doing it for fun. They don't actually pay. So I actually want to make sure that the artists that I deal with make money and I actually pay them. That's why it's important for me to make money, because I can pay them and they can make money. That's what the business is all about. Making the dream event around you. So you have an event you want to do, we get it sorted. Your dream event, if you want to be flipping on that, on the stripper pole, you want to perform, we'll get it sorted for you. We'll get it done for you. We'll get it done for you. But that's what the business is about, you know, showcasing creatives and getting them on the spotlight. Because I actually think there's not a business where creatives can have a talent and showcase it. And there's actually a couple other ideas that the business could have other things that we could do to gain revenue as well. But at the moment, I want to keep it as an events company.
And did you sort of like spot the gap in the market as a consequence of being passionate for the reason why? So is that basically what you did then? Is that how it did?
Basically, yeah. So I'm obviously local in Chelmsford. I don't live too far from Chelmsford. It's near, just 40 minutes outside of London. But there was this thing someone invited me to. It's called Ignite. And basically what Ignite is get all the like creatives come and they have a meeting and talk about stuff. And I went to Ignite. Terrible. Terrible event. It was terrible. Not because the event was bad, but because it seemed like there was a lot of things that were being missed. And the big thing I realized, Tom, that was being missed is that there wasn't a place locally for creatives to showcase their stuff in Chelmsford. You know, that's what I realized. And it also was very stale. When I mean stale, it was run by a lot of old people. Like these Ignite meetings, I've seen all old people. And I was like, why is this? Because there's a lot of creatives I know that obviously aren't old. So I thought to myself, this Ignite, could I do my own? Could I just do my own event where instead of like it being, you know, all old people just talking about stuff they want to do, can I not just do my own Ignite where also do events and then do workshops? For example, Tom, I'm actually trying to do workshops with the event. So like say for example, you have events, people come, they buy drinks, they enjoy music, but maybe next month we have an event where we talk to upcoming content creators. So for example, we may get you on the panel, may get Jake on the panel, and we may be in like a workshop in a room where you're interviewed. So there'll be like people obviously pay for tickets, but they talk to you. You answer questions. So it's like it'll be like a live Q&A essentially. It'll be like a live Q&A where like you get people like Jake, who obviously he's got the YouTube algorithm to a T because he's actually at I think 35,000 subscribers. He's almost at 36. I checked a couple of minutes ago. But people like Jake, all these young upcoming creators, instead of like doing workshops where they're like cringy, and you know when you go to like school, bro, you know when you're in college and they say like, yo, we're gonna have someone come in and talk about this thing. It's always terrible. It's always raw. Like, you know, them things like they let like, oh, we're gonna have this guy, they make it a big deal, but it's terrible. Like, instead of it being like that, let's actually make it a thing where this is good. Like people actually gonna come to this. Young people actually gonna come and they can actually gain value and learn something from it. So I think that's gonna make our business unique. Instead of it just being a thing where you can, you know, have a good time, go to events, you can actually learn something from creatives, from young people themselves. That's what is going to make our business stand out, you know?
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true. So is your, I guess, focus with this is just delivering the best possible experience.
Yes, delivering the best possible experience, my friend. You know, I'm going to be selling my merch, but I want it to be a time, an event where you'll never forget. You'll never forget. And that's why, you know, I realized I love doing events, because my event I did last year, it was a great event, but I love seeing people just enjoy my product, enjoying their time. Do you get what I'm saying? And I just want to make it a thing where most important, you can have a good time, but also learn something as well, especially as young people. Like we can do anything we want. We've got the power to do whatever we want. We don't have to go to these silly little events where they're run by old people. We can do it ourselves, and we can make it a lot more entertaining, you know, because we know what we want. Most
Yeah,
people don't know what most people don't know what makes them happy, but they know what that makes them sad. They know what they don't want. People know what they don't want, um, instead of people knowing what they do want, which is sad. But if you know what you don't want, you know obviously the guideline, and you know, okay, I don't want this, I don't want that. This event was born. There was no drinks, there was no good music, and you just know, okay, when I do an event, I'll have good drinks and add good music. Those sort of things. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah, bro, fully. And like, how do you go about attracting customers for this then, to get people to the events? 'Cause I'm guessing that's quite a hard task.
Yeah, man, it's definitely been hard with COVID. So, just going back on the event I did last year, it was just word of mouth. It was word of mouth, and being very specific with who you want to target. My events are very specific with who I want to target. I know most of the time they're skaters, or they're like people who listen to indie music, people who don't
Mm.
listen to mainstream music, people who maybe are into photography, people who are into making music, people who hang around people who are quite free spirited, people who have a passion and want to do it as a career, but they can't. So I just realized, I just thought to myself, if I was someone who wanted to come to this event, how would I market it? To do that, you've got to be very, very specific with who you're marketing. So I basically, luckily, the reason why I did well is I had a lot of friends who basically liked what I like, and they all came, and they had friends of friends. Most people tend to have friends who are like them.
Wow.
So because they came, their friends came, and because they liked it, their friends liked it. But that was all word of mouth. With the event I'm wanting to do it in February, I am going to do word of mouth because it obviously works, but I want to try different methods. Like, I don't think I'll actually try like paid ads, because I don't know if that will work. I'll try it. Why not? But I want to try like doing like very appealing promo videos that are quite funny, that are quite relatable, because I feel like especially on TikTok, that's what I'm gonna try and do this marketing campaign on TikTok. Is so big. Most of the time, the reason people share content is because they gain from it. Either it's got a high shock value, like it's shocking. Like someone being, I don't know, flipping murdered, that's shocking. People are gonna share that. It's weird, but people are gonna share
Yeah.
that. Or like it's funny, or like it's inspirational. I want to be in between of that, funny but inspirational, and that's how I'm gonna sort of market it, knowing who I wanna just hone it in.
Throughout learning your journey, Ty, I get the impression that you're quite a direct guy. So like, you're very direct in all the marketing approaches that you've tried. So going to the retail store, face to face, having that conversation with people, spreading the event word of mouth. How important is it for you to be that direct and not be I guess, because I guess the easier thing and the most comfortable way is to just run ads from the computer and to try and attract customers through there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you value sort of the direct approach and the traditional method of getting it mouth to mouth and not mouth to mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, and just having that overall direct approach?
Yeah, man. Hopefully I won't have to do any mouth to mouth soon. But yeah, that's the way it works for me, bro. Like that's the way it works for me. Like on all these Instagram ads doesn't work for me. I think with my personality, I am, like you said, very direct. And with what works well with me, bro, is literally just hitting up the people.
Yeah,
Bro, what works for me is literally, if I want someone to come to the event, like, bro, my marketing plan for this event may be, all right, bro, all right, I want to get 100 people to this event. I'm going to personally send a voice message to 100 people that I know, and I'm just going to try and see how that works. Because, like, that's what I do, man. Like, that's why it's important to have a good personality and good brand, because I've managed to make some great connections, because I've literally, like I did with you, just sent a voice note to just, yo, I think your stuff is great. Like I've done that to people who are I've got quite a big following, and they've replied to me sometimes with their own voice note saying, yo, man, I appreciate it. And before you know it, I've got a relationship there. The the direct to consumer always works with me because I like people. I like talking to people. So when I say things, it sounds and it is genuine. So people are like, oh damn, like, you know, I'll support this thing because I'm also tailoring it to people. That's why I don't send messages. I don't usually
Mm,
actually send written messages because if I'm sending a voice note, I can actually think on the fly. Whereas if I'm sending a message, number one, if I'm talking to someone who's, you know, quite famous, they're not
yeah,
going to see it. They will see it and they will obviously read it and maybe not reply. But if it's a voice message, what do you have to do? You have to, all
intriguing.
right,
Yeah,
let me play it. Let me listen to it. Oh, damn, like it's unique. You get what I'm saying? It's all
yeah,
about being unique. People want to know that care about them, basically. So the best way to make sure they know is actually care about them and, you know, to actually give a damn instead of like sending the, how's it going? I'd love for you to be this event. Like you get those annoying spams, like
yeah.
messages, like bots. But instead of doing
Almost
that, you can't
telling.
spam a voice message, bro.
Mm,
You can't spam that. You can't do that because it
no,
means
no,
someone's actually got to send a voice note. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
yeah.
So that unique approach is obviously working for you. Would you tell everyone to have that unique approach, or would you say find what you're best at and then work
Yes.
on that? Yeah.
Yes, indeed, my friend. Find what you're good at and
Hmm.
go with that. You know, I'm obviously good at building connection with people. You know, some people call me quite charismatic. Like people, I know that. I know that if I send a voice note to someone who's, you know, quite popular, I'll probably get a reply. That works for me. It may not work for you. You've got to find your method, and that doesn't mean that you put your eggs in one basket. Or maybe you will still try paid ads, but I know what works for me, and I'll double down on that and
Yeah.
maybe experiment with other things. But you definitely got to hone in on what works for you
And
and
focus on
stick
that.
with that
Yeah.
and focus
No,
on that.
fully
Yeah.
agree, man. Fully agree. And what was quite interesting was when you were talking about the fundraising for the events company. So is that government funding or is that funding through private investors? Well, how's that how's the fundraising structured?
So that is not private investors. That is government funding. So what I think, I don't know all the information. I may be wrong. Is basically the council have certain things they need to hit every year, and I
Hmm.
think like the arts and entertainment thing is like something that is important to the council. So basically, if they see that you're doing something which can essentially better their goals, they will back you and they'll fund you. Essentially, that's what it's about. I believe, and that's why community interest companies or like charities get a lot of funding because you know certain counties got things in it, and if they know that okay, cool, you're starting a new venture that is going to help, I don't know, homeless people, they'll fund it. I'll still put some of my own money in it just because you know the more money the better, but because this is going to really help, you know, my community and because I've got people who can help me, you know, with connections and people who actually, you know, are friends with these funders. I'm going to try and use that to my advantage because, you know, more money, although people say more money, more problems, you can do more with more money. And, you know, for me to do a massive event, which is something I definitely want to do in 2023 or 2024, I need to have, you know, the capital to be able to pull that off, you know.
Hmm. And will you build out a big team for that, or what's?
Yeah, 100%, man. So I'll definitely need a big team for that, because that's going to be a thing where it's just going to take a lot of work, and I won't be able to do it on my own. But right now, these small events that I'm doing, are very good on both aspects. They don't take a long time to get planned, and they're also very profitable when they go right.
Right.
They can
Okay.
be quite lucrative as well. So
So
yeah.
with the small events, is that like just a smaller venue, like less audience? What's the crack with that?
Smaller venue. That's basically what it is, essentially.
Hmm.
That's basically what it is. But the reason they can do well is obviously that's why you've got to make sure you bring value because obviously your ticket prices are important. You don't want them to
Hmm.
be too cheap, so people think you know it's a bit of a gimmick. But you don't want it to be too expensive, so no one comes. And got to be a right price for them, and that's
Hmm.
why they can be quite lucrative. Because if you maybe you know have tickets, I don't know, 10 quid, and you need, and the capacity is 100 people, you know, that's £1,000 that you can get
Mm.
back. And if you, obviously, if you pay the artist, maybe you have 2 artists, 100 quid, that's 800 quid you've made. You've paid them out 200 for each artist, and you've made 800 quid, which is quite good for one day, for one day's work. It's quite good. And that's not even considering merch, because if you sell merch, that's money back in.
Yeah.
And it depends on, depends on what deal you've got with the venue, but you could also get money from drinks as well. You could get maybe a percentage from the drinks that they've sold. So they can be quite lucrative, but the hardest thing is doing events on a consistent basis, because they can take quite a long time to plan. It can be hard sometimes having that consistent income going in, because it'd be very hard to do an event every month. 12 events in 1 year, there'd be a lot of work. But if you did maybe 6 events, that's maybe 6 months that you're not getting any money for. But the 6 months you do, you may make, £1,000 in one night, or maybe 5. It depends what your venue is, but you could easily make £10,000 on those every month for 6 months. You could easily do it if your venue's big enough, and if you have enough revenue streams to add up to that £10,000.
I see. No, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about like all your different ventures, and obviously you've got the podcast as well. So like, where do you see yourself in the next, 10, 15 years?
10, 15 years, good question, my friend. 10, 15 years, I like to have a good following. I like to have a good following. I like to have a strong personal brand. So I like to be a sort of personality. Not be too famous where people, are bombarding when I'm walking down the street. But in my niche, be someone who's quite well known. So I don't know if you know the guy, like Jocko Willink. He is an ex-Navy SEAL. You may have heard.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink. I will literally, after we record this, I'll be doing my work, my business, and I'll be listening to a podcast. But I'd like to be at his sort of level of fame, where he's not too famous, where people are gonna bother him in the street. But if you know who he is, you know who he is, essentially. So I like to be at that level of fame in 10 to 15 years. I'd also like to be running my events company, and running my and doing the merch alongside of that. At that point, honestly, I'd probably maybe change my merch company back into a clothing brand, because I like to think I would have had people working for me, where I don't have to be the sole one person doing all these different things. I could have one person doing the clothing brand and one person doing a podcast. And in terms of the podcast, I like that to be a thing where I just have an audience, and I can actually, do podcast as a full-time thing as well. So yeah. And obviously, if people wanted to know more about me and myself besides the business, maybe check out my YouTube channel, and that would have a good following as well. But I think, to answer the question, we should have a good personal brand, and be able to have a good personal brand, and be able to run my businesses to help upcoming creatives. Basically, that's what I'd like to be able to do in 15 years' time.
That's great to see your your long-term vision, and I think it's a really interesting perspective on the level of fame that you're wanting to attain. Not too not like Andrew Tate famous, where everyone knows him, but someone who's a very high value, but a bit more under the radar, but still has that really strong, as you say, personal brand. So that's that's definitely a different perspective on it, and something I've not heard of before. So it's great to hear about that. But I think to wrap this up, a great question to ask you, and I like to ask this to other people I've spoken to before, is what would be your number one piece of advice for anyone aspiring in the entrepreneurship space, or if they're wanting to build something or create something, what would be your one piece of advice for them?
It's a good question. I'd say discipline, and that's something that I struggle with. You've got to be disciplined, and you have to be consistent. because one thing I realized a couple of days ago, Tom, is that people like us who are doing things outside of the matrix, wanting to start businesses, wanting to start successful podcasts, they're very difficult. It's a lot easier going to university, leaving university, doing an internship for 2 to 3 years, and then getting a job which pays you £35,000 a year. This thing is a career in itself. So because it's a career, you have to treat it as a career. You have to make sure you're consistent. You have to make sure you're consistent. If you want to run a business, you have to make sure you work on that, 5 days a week properly, and you've got to make sure you put your heart and soul into it. So I think what I'd say, this is advice that has helped me, because this is something that I'm still trying to work on, being disciplined. But make sure you're disciplined, because this is a career. Just because no one's telling you what to do doesn't mean you can do whatever you like. You have to make sure that you are disciplined and you make sure you treat it. Yes, you wake up, getting it done, because whether you like it or not, if you wanted to do this as a career, you have to make sure that you can pay the bills, and you have to make sure that you can actually make money. And it's going to take time. And, when you're wishy-washy, when you're not treating it as a career, you're going to get the gap between you and people in the matrix. Although they may be doing the wrong thing and they may not be living their dream life, they are going to surpass you, because although it's been a bit easier for them, you could have gone like that when you're now like here. If you were consistent, okay, cool, you may be up and down a bit, but it always gets to a point. What I've realized, Tom, is it gets to a point where people are like maybe content creators. They may be doing it for 5 years and something blows up. It only takes one thing. And if you're not consistent, you'll never get to that one thing. You'll never get to that one podcast where you look back and you're like, flip, I did my podcast for 3 years because I got this one person on. It just skyrocketed. If you're not consistent, you're going to miss out on all those opportunities. Discipline, you're going to miss out.
Yeah. No, I guess if you're just staying on that path and then you get that one breakthrough, that sort of like makes up for all the hard times before, and it's just about persisting and all that sort of stuff. So I'm a big proponent of that as well. So yeah, it's great to hear that you align with that. But yeah, no, I think that's a really great place to wrap up the podcast with. And obviously, Ty, you've got your different ventures, and we'll plug your merch, your YouTube channel, podcast, all that sort of stuff in the description below. And everyone who's listening and watching to this, make sure to go support all that, because he's a young entrepreneur hustling, trying to make something. So yeah, all the support is much appreciated. But yeah, thank you very much for hopping on the pod, Ty. Is there anything you'd like to say just as a final note, or
get some? Make sure you get some, ladies and gentlemen. Life is too short. Just get some.
Yeah, mate, I love the energy. But yeah, thank you. I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode. It's been an absolute banger. And yeah, no worries, Ty. And make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you very much.